Hey, it's Dereka with Dereka's Designs, and today we're going to make this cute mini Highland cow attachment. This is a no-sew attachment, so grab your glue guns and let's get started. Hey guys, now we are going to make this cute little mini Highland cow. We did make a larger size earlier this year, which was approximately, I don't even know, I can't even tell you the measurements. It was big. It was probably 24 by 16. This one is 14 by 10. So it's just a little bit smaller, But we're basically going to use some of the same tips and, the things we're going to do with this little guy. He's just, to me, kind of the perfect size for a smaller wreath, maybe just a small grapevine or something, but he was cute. Now I went to get more fur and ended up with this fur instead. And you can see this is just a little bit lighter. This is a little bit darker. This is what I ended up getting. Guys, no matter where you go, you're probably going to find a different type of fur. But as long as it is a shaggy brown, or let's see, this one, I did one that was a shaggy gray. As long as you like the color, it does not matter. It does not have to be exactly. In fact, for this little one, this is actually probably a little bit too long. So this one isn't quite as long, and I think I'm gonna like it a little better. So just when you're out, if you want to make more of these, don't worry so much about getting the exact fur. I've had many people message me that they cannot find the exact fur, and I'm sorry, you're not going to. Whatever your stores carry, that's what you're going to have. They do sell it on Amazon, but I can't tell you what you're going to get. Amazon is, you don't get to see it, touch it, feel it. You don't get to do any of those things before it comes to your door. So, but if you're going out in the stores, you're not going to find anything like this at Hobby Lobby. You're only going to find it at Joann's or other maybe larger fabric stores that carry them. So this was the Joann's. It's called the Husky. It's a husky fur is what it's called. Husky tan fur. This, I have no idea what it was. I've had this for a very long time. I don't have much of this left. So in order to have enough, I went to Joann's and got this one. That way we don't run out, when we do your kits. Now I'm going to show you really quick how I cut fur, because it's another one of the big questions. If you didn't have the big cow, you might be wondering how on earth to cut fur. What I do is I draw it on the back side, just like these are the ears, and it's very important, guys. Those arrows on your pattern, if you see a big black Sharpie marker arrow on the pattern when you print it out, that arrow means that's the direction of the fur. Be sure you're not putting it upside down. You don't want your cow's fur to go upward. Okay? Same thing with the ears. You need a left and a right ear, but you need that fur to go downward, not upward. Okay? So be mindful of where those arrows are on the pattern pieces, and make sure, and when I say the arrow goes down, it means if you pet it, it's going down. All right, that's the flow. That's where the arrow is pointing this way. Okay. So I take an X-Acto knife and I just literally, from the back side, don't do it on the table, because what you're going to do is you're going to cut through all that fur between this back side and the table. You don't want any hard cut edges on your cow. Was this one that I did? This one had a flaw it was in the fur already, but can you see these very hard cut pieces right there? There weren't many. Oh, there it was better down here. There weren't many, but I went ahead and used it anyway. You don't want hard cut pieces. You want this flowy, these little hard, I tried to hide them under other fur. And it's not super, super noticeable, but still, make sure when you're cutting with your X-Acto knife, you're lifting it off the table and then just using your knife to go all along the line that you drew, okay? You can do this with a small set of scissors and just snip it all the way around, very lightly, not cutting, you know, but just kind of try to get up under the fur and kind of snip it with a little pair of scissors. That will work too. But this to me is the easiest. I'm just using my X-Acto, or I'm adding some tension with it as I'm pulling it, so it makes it easier to cut. And then I just go down the line here. I use X-Acto knives for everything. I know there are real fancy tools out there to do lots of different things, but I'm just kind of old school. I don't want to buy some new tool that will work on one thing and not something else. X-Acto knife works on everything. So I just make sure I have a really sharp blade, and we just get busy with it. There we go. So cut that out. Now you might have some little fringes on the edge, little things. So just, you can run your hand. See, I'm getting a little bit off, but none of it is cut. It's just all little, there we go, just like that. Now we'll do the ears. And remember, again, very important, the arrow on the ears points this direction. Make sure your fur is going that direction, and you have a left and a right, okay? Always check your patterns. And if you don't know, if you're about to cut out a pattern and you have a question on something, before you cut, before you accidentally make a little mistake on very expensive $50 a yard fur, either shoot me a message, or if you can, watch the tutorial, or at least, you know, I try to give as many tips and things as I can in the beginning of the tutorial, but sometimes I don't think about something until, you know, midway through the tutorial. So, but if you have a question, if something is not making sense to you, you can always post it in the Facebook group, because the No Sew Kit Club Facebook group has lots of people in there that can probably help answer the questions if I'm not available, or you can just shoot me a message. If you just want something random like, hey, where did you get your fur? I mean, that you can post in the Facebook group. That's why I created that Facebook group for this particular kit club, because that way, those of you who are in bigger cities who might have access to way more than I do can find things probably much easier. I am kind of rural, and the towns that I shop in are not big major cities. So, you know, I don't always get all the good things like you guys do. So sometimes I'm just forced to get stuff off Amazon and just keep my fingers crossed that it came out, that when it gets here, I will like it. Okay, so you can see our little bloppy ears here. Super cute. Now we have this. Again, not the exact same fur, but I think I'm going to like this one better anyway. Excuse me, guys. We have, I guess I should put that on Do Not Disturb. Give me 1 second. There we go. Okay, so then, again, trusty X-Acto knife. That is what I use to cut out our pattern. And you might not be able to see these lines very well, but you can kind of, they're just drawn on with pencil. But I just take my X-Acto knife and hold it like a pencil, and I just sort of pull it along. Pull it along like that. See how easy that was? Now, if you sit here and try to do it like a saw, it works. It's not me. It's not for me. I just hold it like a pencil, put it through, and then I pull it. And then I keep turning the piece that I'm working on, so that, I mean, obviously I can't, you know, you want to make it comfortable for your wrist. So, and I lift up the knife. I don't always do one big full swoop of, like with this one, I would go like this, and then I would go off. And I would come over here and I would crisscross and go over what I did before, and then go around and go off. And then you can just pull that piece out and then do a nice straight line. You don't have to sit here and do everything without lifting the blade up, like if you were drawing kind of thing. You want to lift the blade up to make it more comfortable for you to get a good clean cut. That one, just like that. See, it's very easy to do. Curves can be a little more tricky. Now, I started this one earlier, and then I stopped myself and thought, you know, I should wait and cut this out on the video. So I have done all the way, let's see, I've done all the way to there. So now what I do, again, X-Acto knife, poke it in, I go all the way up like this, and I go off, and I take all these extra pieces off. Let me see if I can zoom in here. And then when it comes to a curve like this, I go like this, like this, like this. You don't have to try to go in a curve. And sometimes when you're going on curves, the foam in here, the styrofoam will bunch up on you. Well, you don't have to. You can take this off in as many pieces as you need to. So then I go all the way around like this, stop right there, put it back in, go all the way around, follow the curves, and I'll probably go off right there. And then I can take this whole piece off. And then I just kind of go slowly. You don't have to go hard. I mean, the blade is touching the table, but I just pull it along. I'm just pulling it very slowly. So I know I've helped a lot of people do this, and really they're just making it harder. I don't know how, it's so easy for me, but for a lot of people that I've helped, they've literally just made it harder for themselves. And once they see how I do it, they're like, well, heck, that's easy. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's pretty easy. Okay, so now we have that piece, this piece. The difference between the mini and the big cow, the biggest difference is on the bigger cow, the horns were separate because it's just way too big. Just to get all of those pieces and parts together, it would have just been way too big. So, but on the mini, I can keep it all one piece and makes it really easy. It's a much easier pattern than the bigger cow. So now I like to just put out, there's my eyes, there's my nostrils, and oops, I just need one lower lip, and then the nose, and then this goes over. So this is all, these are all the parts that you need. I mean, it's really not a whole lot. In comparison to some of the other no-sew attachments, which sometimes have 30, 40 pieces to them, but this one doesn't seem too bad. So I'm going to start making all my little things, all my little snout, my ears, all the little things before we start actually putting it all together on here. So what we're going to do with this is I'm going to glue it all the way around, but I'm going to leave the spot open down here so we can stuff some polyfill in there because we want it to be puffy. Don't want it to be flat, okay? So you just take your glue gun and just start wrapping the felt around to the back side of this piece on the 3 sides. Leave the bottom part open. And just keep going all the way around. And you might kind of get your fingers in the glue, so I highly recommend a detail tip glue gun, something that is not going to put out quite as much glue as a normal glue gun. It's still hot, don't get me wrong, it's still hot, but it's not putting out quite so much. So I'm going to let that cool because we don't want to stuff that while it's still hot, okay? So let's get our ears. Now, the ears, the shape of the ear, see how it kind of goes to here and it's got this little dip in right here? Well, you can't really because it's got a little dip right there. That's how you know this is the top and this is the bottom, okay? So they kind of, just think of like little dobby ears or little bat ears. That's kind of what it reminds me of. And then we have this, of course, which is, we have a left and a right, which was smart. So obviously this one is going to go over here like that. And this one, now I left this white poking through here on purpose because this has to be glued to the back side of this, or the top side of this. So you don't want to glue on top of fur. So I left this as like a little tab to slide it in here and glue it down, and not to get all the glue into the fur. That is the goal of this. Do not get the glue in the fur. So we're not going to stuff the ears. They don't need it. But see how you can kind of see how this goes like that. And then I have lots of extra up top. I did that on purpose because if you look at this, you don't want this ugly edge of this fur showing. It's ugly. It's not pretty. So what you're going to do, though the bottom doesn't have the ugly edge because it has this pretty fur hanging over it. So you don't have to worry about the bottom. So what I did was we're going to glue this onto the back of this fur, and then we're going to take this and we're going to just glue this top part down. Just that way, when you flip it over, that ugly part is hidden. All right. So I'm going to put some glue on our foam board. I'm not going to put it all the way to the edge because we don't need glue there just yet. Make sure our fur is out of the way, and I'm just going to glue it right onto the backing. Okay, same with this one. We're going to put some glue. Don't need a lot, just enough to hold it on there. Right down towards the bottom, leaving that, see how on both of them we have extra on the top of the backing is showing. Okay, so now I will just take a little bit of glue all along this backing. And I like to use my hand, but you can use whatever. And I just curl it over. You can do a little bit at a time with your finger. Or if you have a little, like a piece of silicone, you can use that to kind of curl it around so you don't get your fingers. But now, when you flip it over, you don't even see that ugly thing at the top, and you just have all the cute fun fur with the little white tab part sticking out, just like that. So we'll glue this one down. Okay, just using my fingers to fold it over. Now this little cow would be absolutely adorable with some the flower crown. I know lots of people like to put little roses on the sides of the horns and maybe across the top, that sort of thing. I would just go to Google or to a web page and or Etsy, even Pinterest, and just look up Highland cow and see how other people have decorated their cows. There's really lots of cute ways you can add a little more to the cow so he's not just a cow. I didn't do that for this kit because I figured when you go to put them in your wreaths, or or if you're going to sell them, you're not necessarily going to, you want it to match. So if I put lavender flowers in there and you're making a pink wreath, you may not want lavender in there. So that way you can find the florals that work for your specific project you're working on. So now I'm just taking polyfill with my fingers and I'm just kind of shoving it in there. Not super tight. You don't want it overstuffed. It doesn't have to be really, but you just want a little bit of a cushion to it. That's all. So don't stuff it so much in there that you can't close the end over here. I put a line of glue there. And again, I'm just such a habit. I use my hand to curl it over like that. I really should use the silicone. I mean, it does make it much easier. I use the silicone like a little pot holder. It just kind of keeps you from getting your fingers all up in that glue. But then when you flip it over, you just have this cute little muzzle, nose, snout, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Not really sure what it's called. And we have two cute little nostrils. Now you can see, if you're gonna do this cow, or if you want to, Hobby Lobby has a really cute pink fur that looks like this. It's solid, but it's pink. The pink cows are stinking adorable, guys. But I had some of this gray left over. But I did gray muzzle and black nostrils, and then the gray horns. There's really lots of different color combinations you can use. I think the pink one is probably one of my favorites. It is a Hobby Lobby fur, which means that it's relatively inexpensive. It's like $14.99 a yard. This is $50.99 a yard, guys. So it's a big difference when you jump from Hobby Lobby to Joann's. But, you know, Hobby Lobby didn't have it in this color. They have it in white and pink. But I do want to do a pink one day. I think the little pink one is adorable. I know there aren't pink cows. It's just a whimsical thing. It's just a little, I just think they're adorable. I have pink fur upstairs, and I will one day, I'm going to make one with that pink fur that I got from Hobby Lobby. And then I'm going to do a little flower crown with all of the pretty light blue, lavender, yellow, all the pastels. I just think it'd be gorgeous. No, I mean, yeah, I get it. They don't have pink cows, but I think it's cute. So, and not everything has to be exactly, you know, this obviously isn't a real cow. So, you know, have fun with it. So this is just a little lower lip. I don't know if this is actually necessary. When I made it before, I felt like it was just a little lower lip on there. Not huge, just kind of something. Just looked better to me. Okay, so now all we have left are these little eyes, which I'm going to set over here so we don't lose them. Now I'll show you how to do the horns. Now, super easy. We're just going to put them on and stuff them. So you have this notch, right? So you're going to glue just the notch, just right on the edge right there. We're going to line it up to where these go right where the head ends. Those are right there. Those are going to fold up under. So now we just glue down the notch. That's it. That's all we're doing right now. And on the other side, I like to work with two different things at once. That's why one side can be cooling and the other side can be, you know, you can be working on, or other pieces like this. That way, when you go to stuff them, it's cooled off. So you have it like that. You just have the notches glued on, just like that. And you go directly to where the horn starts right there. So now we flip it over. See where this straight area is on the horn? And then it kind of curves up right here. We're gonna glue to that straight area. That's enough space where we can take a small dowel and shove some polyfill in there to give the horns a little bit of, I don't know, puffiness. So you don't want the horns to just be flat. I like adding the polyfill in there. Makes them look like, I don't even know what the word, like a half circle, you know, like they're puffy, they're not flat. Because I think a horn is, you know, cylindrical. There's some big words there. I don't know if that's the correct word, but you know what I'm saying. You definitely you don't want your horns to just be glued down, felt glued onto the foam board. I don't think it'll look as nice. So it just takes a little bit of extra time to stuff them and give them that full effect, like this one is full. Okay, so I've only glued to the straight part, right? So now I'll flip it over again, grab some polyfill, and we have to work with small pieces. Flip this up, take your dowel, and then just move your dowel, move that polyfill all the way to that tab where we glued it down, okay? You don't have to overstuff it, but you don't want there to be any gaps. So use your fingers, kind of feel over it, make sure the polyfill there aren't any holes, you know? Like if you feel it, you feel polyfill all the way around, just like this. And there aren't any, like this little corners and things aren't empty. or flattened. Okay, do the other side, same thing. Pull this back. If you don't have a dowel, you can probably just use your finger. I just have big fat fingers, so I like to use the dowel so I can get it into the corners. But if you don't have one, you can use a pencil. Or like I said, if you have small fingers, just use your fingers. Okay, so now that section there is all the way to there is stuffed. We'll flip it over. Now we're going to go around this curve and almost to the tip, not all the way, just almost, okay? We still need to make room for your finger or the dowel or whatever you're using to get in there to finish stuffing it right there. So see how I have the end open right there. So I like to use my thumbs to make sure I'm pulling this tight. Okay, and we'll do this side. And just go all the way with it. Like that. Okay, so we're going to flip it over again. Okay, small piece. You're not going to be able to get a whole lot in here. It's not a very big hole. That's why I like to use a dowel. But again, like I said, a pencil. If you have a pencil with an eraser at the end, that is perfect because that eraser kind of grabs onto the polyfill and it's not slippery because polyfill is very slippery. So if you have a pencil with an eraser at the end, that works as a great short dowel. Okay. Now obviously for some things you need a big super long one like this, but for something like this, just a pencil with an eraser is a great tool. And now I'm just filling it all the way to the very tip. You don't want to leave out the very tip. If you don't fill that little tip, it's going to be really noticeable. So I think that one, whoops, I probably put just a tiny bit more in there. So now I take my dowel. I'm just going to push in any little stragglers, any little pieces of polyfill that are, or just sometimes just grab them and get rid of them. Sometimes the polyfill will keep the hot glue from actually adhering to the foam board. If it's a good chunk of it, because polyfill basically is like plastic, so it's very slippery. So you know how you think about what hot glue does if you try to put it on plastic. It just comes right off. You can pick it off with your fingernail. It just turns into a little rubber ball. So it'll do the same thing on the polyfill. If it's a clump like this of it, it's not gonna stick. So just always try to get the polyfill out of the way before you put the hot glue on. Okay, so now we'll do this side. Shove it in there. If you don't have polyfill and you've just been using quilt batting, because a lot of our no-sew attachments we use quilt batting in, you can absolutely still use quilt batting in this. Don't think you need to run out to the store and buy polyfill. You just want something. Maybe do 2 layers of quilt batting if you can, to really try to make it bigger and rounder. But I always keep both. I highly recommend that, especially if you intend to make attachments in the future. There are going to be some times when polyfill is necessary. Like if you put quilt batting in this instead of polyfill, it would still be puffy. It would still look cute. I might do 2 layers instead of 1. Same with these horns. I would do 2 layers instead of 1. It's the same stuff. It's just the quilt batting is flat. So it's not a huge deal. Don't run out and buy polyfill if you don't have it. But you do, and when I say quilt batting is this flat stuff. Just, you know, double it over. Do 2 layers if you want it to be thicker. Don't absolutely, just use what you have on hand. Okay, so now we have our big piece of fur, right? I have a little edge down here I'm going to snip off. There we go. See, I snipped it off with all the fur, so none of the fur got cut, just the little edge up here. So none of this fur is cut. That's what you want to do. All right, so the top of the fur would be right here, the top of the head, and the fur flowing downward, right? This would be the chin down here. Okay, so you want to place your you want to make sure when you there's a reason that the sides of the fur are cut very flat right here. That is, it's going to go right on top of your horns where the tab is, okay? And when you set it down, the most important thing when you're doing, make sure you have this 1/2 inch of backing showing down here. You're going to need this to glue down after we stuff it. So you have the 1/2 inch up here. It's lined up on both sides. And then you have this 1/2 inch down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue on this top piece up here. Okay, like that, and then we're just going to fold it over. And we're going to get this, we're going to let this cool. We don't want to tug on this or do anything with it until this piece up here has a chance to really cool. So I got that on there first, right? So now, no matter what we do, it's always going to be, no matter if we move it around, tug it, when we lay it back down, because we glued this, this is always going to be in place. And that's very important. You don't want to get halfway through gluing it and realize you didn't leave enough down here at the bottom to close this, you know, to close the below the nose down there. Okay, so while that is 100% cooling, I'm going to flip this up and we're going to go ahead and attach our ears. Now, I like to just get all the hair I can out of the way. You can always comb it back later. I'm going to put a little more glue on this one because I didn't go all the way to the edge. So there. So I have this fun little thing. So now I'm going to glue back here just where the tab is, right? Just on that edge that I left open on the other side. And we're going to place this right here, basically right below the horn. It's touching the tab of the horn right here. They're touching. But I've only got it on the foam board the distance of the tab. See? See, this is the tab we left open. That is where it's glued onto the foam board, and then it's touching up here to the horn. So I just put that on there. Now that's going to have to cool too. So we'll take our other one, grab all the fur out of the way. We don't get glue on. And another trick, guys, if you do get glue on the fur, or say your glue gun drips a glob onto leave it. Do not pull it while that glue is hot. Just leave it, let it cool, and then later, when it's cooled off completely, you can pick it off with your fingernail. It might take some of the fur with it, but it's better to do that than try to cut it out. Do not cut the glue out of the fur. So I'm just putting glue right on that tab part. But if you get glue on the fur, leave it. You can pick it off easy later, no problem. They're touching right there. I have it all the way up to where it's touching the tab of the horn, but it's only glued on to where the fur starts right here. So that and that. And still try to keep the fur out of the way. Just keep brushing it out of the way. So now this is cooled off. So now what we're going to do is we are going to put glue on our tabs right here, on top of where our ears are right here, and that's it. And then we're going to bring this little toupee looking thing, and we're going to fold it down, and it's going to glue, and we're going to hold it right onto those glue lines that we just put there. Makes it a little bit bigger. So, not putting any glue at the top, not putting any glue on this part. Only right along the tab, and you're going to want a good bead, okay? And then right along the foam board from where the ear is. And you want it to be a good solid bead. You don't want this coming up. So just like that, you can see glue and glue. So then you lift this up and you just hold it and just kind of pull it down, hand here, hand here. Don't mess with it, don't move it, don't pick it up again and try to re-put it. The whole point of us gluing this top up here was so when we folded it down, we know it's in a perfect place. We know when we flip this over, we still have our 1/2 inch all the way around, okay? That is the whole point of gluing the top first and then just bringing it down. And yeah, right now, there's probably some little pieces of hair that have glue on them somewhere. It's okay. Let it cool. When you go to kind of finger comb this out later when you're done and everything, and you see, just take it and just pick it off with your fingernail, okay? If there's a little bit of glue on the edge of the fur, just, it's okay. Now, if it's a big old glob of fur, I mean, you know what a little tiny blob of fur and a glob of fur are two very different things. So we have to let this cool because what we're gonna do now, once this cools off, is we're gonna start stuffing polyfill in here. We're gonna get polyfill all the way up to the bottom of the ears. And then we'll flip this over and then we'll start gluing these down and then keep going and then, obviously seal off the very bottom. So we just have to let these, I can still feel the warmth in there. And that's usually my indicator. It's still not totally. So what we've done too is we've sandwiched the ear. So the ear it's glued on there and then this the fur is glued over it so that the ears are sort of sandwiched in there. But they still stick out far enough that you can tell that it's a separate ear. It's not all blended in like that. Now, if you want to, if you don't think you put enough glue on, you can always pull this apart. See how when I pull this apart, there's that little edge right there? I am going to just put tiny little line of glue right there, just to make sure that the backing of the fur is glued all the way down. Now this side glued down, like it's not pulling up when I tug on it. So that one's fine. But the other one wasn't. So that's why I added just a tiny bit more. Okay, I think we're cooled off enough. So now we're going to use our hand. We're going to go all the way up. Actually, I'm going to use the dowel. I'm going to try to I want fur all the way up into the forehead up here, the very top of the head. You got to make sure you get it all the way up there. Just very lightly, just make sure you get it. And when you use your top hand to feel, like I feel like I need a little bit more on this side right there. And we'll add another piece right there. Okay, so we are stuffed all the way to there, to the bottom of the ears. Nice round head up there. So now we flip it over. And again, we're gonna make sure our ear fur is out of the way. We don't want it getting in the way. We wanna make sure everything is centered. I'm gonna put a line of glue just to get it started. We're gonna take this under piece and we're gonna fold it over. Just like that. Make sure that ear. Now a lot of this fur on the back, I will trim it off just because I don't like having the bulk back there. You can see on this one, I came in and I just gave it a little haircut just on the stuff that's on the back right here. That way it's not bulky in the back. I'll show you how I do that. So you got that part on. And now we'll do the same with this side. Get all of the ear fur out of the way because it's going to try to come under everything. Pull it all out. I just put a line of glue just right there. Grab this and pull it around. Okay, so now I'm going to go a little bit further down, right to where it starts to curve. But of course, we're going to leave the very end open so that we can finish stuffing it. We'll do this side. This is easier to do in little increments rather than try to glue the whole thing at one time. So now you have all of that glued. If you fluff the fur away, you can see there's quite a bit on the back. So I only do the back. Make sure you're only doing the back side. Don't get anything that curves around to the front. Just like that. That way, when it's sitting flat, it will be flat. There's not all this bulk back here. Then we can finish stuffing. Use my dowel again. Fur wants to curl under with everything else. So I'm just using my dowel just to kind of move it around, get it in place, flip it over, and you're just take a minute, pull out all the hair that might have curled under with it. I want it all to be nice. I'm going to add just a little bit more right here in this end to make sure it's all even. Okay, so I didn't leave a lot on this bottom part. I have just enough to glue to the very edge here. So I'm going to put it right on the edge of the foam board. And I'm going to grab this fur and I'm going to pull it that way. And then I put my hand over it. Use the fur to pull it over it and then put your hand over it. Make it stay. You can see when it goes back, the fur goes, once it's cooled off, the fur just goes straight down, just like that. Now, I don't really trim this bottom part, the stuff on the back here, unless it's a lot. I'm just going to leave that because I want to make sure I don't have any cuts in this fur. Okay. Okay, so there we go. Looking pretty cute so far. All right, so now we have this cute little muzzle. I like the bottom lip here to basically be at the same length as the foam board underneath, so right here. So I know right here is about my center, right? The center of this, so if I sit it there, it's right where I want it to be. So now we get to part all the hair. We are not going to glue this entire thing onto this. We don't want, there's just too many ways, too many chances of getting all the fur locked in the glue. And I don't want to take those chances. So what I do is I find my center and then I literally just give it the tiniest little haircut because you can't glue on top of this fur. I mean, your little snout will never sit properly. So I'm just creating a little bald area here, a little shaved area that I can put glue in. And then when I put this on here, and I can show you like with this one, I can still get my finger under here. But it's okay. It's in the center, it is glued tight, but like the bottom lip isn't glued up under here. That way the fur has the ability to flow more freely and there's 10 times less chance of you getting glue on the fur. So I've created this little area. It doesn't have to be pretty. Now I'm only gluing this area that I snipped. I'm not putting glue anywhere else. And I'm putting a pretty decent amount there, okay? So now I know that is going to need to go right in the center of my little snout here, my little cow nose. So I make sure the cow nose is centered just like that. Yes, you're going to have fur going upward. You're going to have fur coming out all the way around just like that until you're just going to have to hold this. The fur is going to try to push the little nose away because, you know, there's so much bulk of fur, but as long as you hold this for a good while, like this, honestly, guys, this is where I would literally just put my arm on here, pick up my phone, check my messages, check out TikTok, do whatever. Just leave your arm on it or leave something on it to make sure that this glue, I put a good amount of glue on there, so it's going to need a couple of minutes to cool off to where it doesn't pull away from the fur, okay? So we just holding it. We just hold it. Get a drink. Do whatever. The worst thing that can happen is this pulls up and you go to grab it and the whole thing comes off. And again, glue on the fur, glue everywhere. It's just take the time to sit here and hold it until it doesn't want to pull off at all anymore. There's no clamp. I don't have a clamp big enough that will fit here. So literally, this is how we do it. Okay. So now you can kind of start bringing that fur around it, you know, and now you can't even tell that that's got a giant glob of glue. Or all the stuff I cut off in that very center hole, you can't even tell that it was cut. See, I like this fur length better on the smaller cow because see, this one basically almost covers his entire nose. It's so long. This one, you know, it only goes about halfway. I really like this length. This is the, I don't know, this, I think this is 2-inch pile. This is a 3-inch pile. And a pile just means how long each, you know, the strands are. The 2-inch pile seems to be, to me, seems to be a little more realistic. On the small, and on the bigger cow, I liked the long one. So, you know. Okay, so now for the eyes, you can purchase doll eyes or stuffed animal eyes or plastic hard eyes. You can do whatever you want with eyes. I personally don't feel like the Highland cow needs anything more than just the illusion of an eye. I like to put it basically where the horn and the ear meets. I kind of make 2 little slits in the fur, just parting the fur. Now, don't put your eyes close to the center. Cows' eyes are on the sides of their head. If you put your eyes both close in the center, they look like beady little eyes, and I don't trust him, right? So you want the eyes to be, I know it sounds silly, but that's what it makes me think of. See how these eyes are kind of, well, you can't even see it. This fur is so much thicker. They're kind of to the side where you would assume a cow's eyes would kind of be. So don't put your eyes in the very center, guys. It just looks silly. It really does. Put them, and I kind of like to angle them just a little bit, just the slightest bit, because they are supposed to be on the side of his head. So see how far out those are? Now, without the fur over them, they look crazy, right? They look weird. But once you add the fur over them, you don't have an eyeball, you have an illusion of an eye under there. And that's what you're going for. Unless you want to put a big, you know, hard plastic eye that, like I said, a stuffed animal eye, there's a lot that you can get them on Amazon. Hobby Lobby does sell some, not a lot, but they do sell some. And now we do have to, I'm not going to cut any of the fur under these eyes. Because I parted it right there, I'm going to glue straight down on top of all of that fur. We don't have to worry about these coming up because we're going to cover them with hair, with the fur. So So that's how it looks. And like, I know it looks really creepy. It looks like possessed because it's just a big brown blob. But once you kind of put your fur down, and I like to open it just a little bit so that you can see the eyes, but they're there, but they're not like the main focus of the cow. See how that looks? Like you can tell there's a little eye under there, but it's not the main focus of the cow. So anyway, here are the cows that I did. These are the two. This is a 3-pile long fur. It's a little hard to work with. It's much better on the larger size cow. This is the 2-inch pile fur, which I do love. And this is called a grizzly fur, or it might be camel, one of those. Just let me go big here. See how it has a little bit of wave to it? It's kind of, but this is also a 3-inch pile fur, so it's very, very long. But it's got a little bit of a curl to it. And then of course this is variegated with the black and then the gray on it. You can get this also $50.99 a yard at Hobby Lobby. You can get these, both of these on Amazon. I'm sure if you just look up camel fur, grizzly fur, husky fur, something to that nature. They usually name them whatever kind of animal it looks like. But this one I got at Hobby Lobby. This is at Joann's, excuse me. This is the husky. You can get pink and white, very similar to this at Hobby Lobby. You can do, but Hobby Lobby does not have a tan like this. So I wish they did. They do not. So anyway, that's just the different types of furs. So when you're out looking for them, if you want to make more of these, you really kind of just have to take what you can find. I mean, honestly, if you want gray ones, Joann's, like I said, they do have it. $50.99 a yard. Every once in a while you can get a coupon, but here lately it's not been a lot. And then of course you can go on Amazon, but when you order off Amazon, you never quite 100% for sure know what you're getting, right? I mean, you just pray that it comes in and it's similar to what your vision was on that. But anyway, I think it's super cute. This one's definitely my favorite. I like that shorter fur. I think it looks, and I like it's very shiny and glossy. I like the way that looks. And with a little flower crown or some roses up here, it's super, super adorable. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you got a lot of information out of this video. I tried to include a little bit more from start to finish, tips and tricks and all the things that I do to make these attachments so that you are able to resell them down the line if that is what you choose to do. I want to make these tutorials. I want to try to remember all the tips and tricks. But if there is something that you're still confused on or something just didn't click throughout all of this, please don't hesitate to message me. You can go to derekasdesigns.com. There's a contact me button or contact us that will send me an email. That's one of the easiest ways to get in touch with me. I do get notifications on those. Whereas in Facebook Messenger, sometimes I can't find messages. I'll see them pop up, but then I don't know where they end up. And it's gotten so confusing with all the different accounts that sometimes it just takes me a while. So the easiest way to get with me is to go to derekasdesigns.com, hit the contact us button, and it'll send me an email directly, and then I can get back with you. So, or like I said, post in the group, because there's a whole lot of people in these groups that are happy to answer questions, especially when they find something really amazing and they want to share it with everybody. So this is a great one, guys. This is very popular. People are still making and selling these, and I see wreaths every day across my feed with my pattern and my cows on there, and I think it's fabulous. So hope you all enjoy making them. Thank you.